Okay, so this time you've sent us a really fascinating case. Anna Chapman. Is she a cunning spy? Is she some kind of media manipulator? Or is she just a pawn in some bigger game? It is time to ask. Grifter or gifted? We got a whole pile of sources to sort through: Wikipedia, some news articles, even a first-hand account from a journalist who actually met her in Moscow. This is going to be
Yeah.
interesting.
It really is, and it's a question that we can apply to a lot of these high-profile figures. How much is genuine vision and how much is just simply exploiting the system for their own personal gain? And when you look at Anna Chapman, it's especially tricky because you're dealing with the world of espionage,
Yeah.
which is, by its very nature, shrouded in secrecy and deception.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. So Wikipedia tells us that she was born Anna Kurchenko in Volgograd, Russia, in 1982.
Yeah.
Not exactly a glamorous start for a future femme fatale.
True, but you know what? Sometimes those seemingly ordinary origins can actually make someone more effective in the world of espionage because blending in becomes second nature.
Oh, that's a good point. Now, she later got British citizenship by marrying a guy named Alex Chapman. And here's a curious detail. He claims that her business was in debt for years before it suddenly took off in 2009. Almost like she got like a sudden influx of cash from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's definitely a red flag. Sudden wealth can be a sign of someone who is playing the system, whether it's through illicit means or just clever manipulation. And speaking of manipulation, we have to talk about her alleged recruitment by Russian intelligence.
Here's where it gets really intriguing. Her autobiography claims she was interviewed by a, quote, Vladimir Vladimirovich while she was living in London. Coincidence? I think not. Sounds like Putin himself might have had a hand in bringing her into the fold.
It's a bold claim for sure. We can't verify it, of course, but the timing is certainly suspicious.
Uh-huh.
And if it is true, it suggests that she was seen as a valuable asset, someone worthy of attention from Russia's highest leadership.
So she ends up in the U.S. as part of the illegals program. This is a network of sleeper agents living undercover. Classic spy stuff. Aliases. Dead drops. Encrypted laptops. It's all there. But was this sophisticated espionage? Or was it more like Cold War fantasy camp?
That is the million-dollar question. Some experts believe that these so-called illegals were more about Russia projecting this image of power than actually gathering intelligence. Maybe just a way to keep the West on edge.
Okay, but think about her life in New York City. She was posing as a real estate entrepreneur, running a company called Property Finder, partying at these exclusive clubs, even dating an ex-Marine named Bill Stanford. Doesn't exactly scream undercover agent, does it?
It does seem a little brazen, but could that be part of the con? If you're so open, no one suspects you're hiding something.
Okay, and then, of course, there's the FBI bust in 2010. They claim they were watching her from the moment she arrived in the U.S. Sounds like they were just waiting for her to slip up.
And that slip-up came in the form of a fake passport she was supposed to deliver to another Russian agent. Classic sting operation.
Caught red-handed, or should we say red-haired. She was arrested along with 9 other Russian agents and quickly deported back to Russia in a prisoner exchange. You'd think that'd be the end of the story. Right. Wrong.
That's where things take a very interesting turn. Instead of fading into the shadows, she becomes a full-blown celebrity in Russia.
Talk about a plot twist. Suddenly, she's modeling for magazines. She's hosting a TV show about the secrets of the world. She even joins the youth wing of Putin's political party.
Yeah,
It's almost like getting outed as a spy was the best thing that ever happened to her career.
exactly. It makes you wonder if she was playing a deeper game all along. Was she meant to get caught and then use that notoriety for personal gain?
And there's actually a detail from her ex-Marine boyfriend that adds another layer to all of this. He mentioned that another Russian agent in the illegals program, a woman named Lydia Guryeeva, was getting close to a big-time fundraiser and friend of Hillary Clinton's, a man named Alan Patrikov. So maybe the operation wasn't a total failure after all, at least when it came to infiltrating certain circles.
That's a crucial piece of the puzzle. It suggests that there might be more to this operation than meets the eye, and that Chapman's role could have been far more significant than we initially thought.
So we're left with these two very different versions of Anna Chapman. On one hand, we have the skilled spy, risking it all for her country, maybe even getting close to some valuable intel.
And on the other, you have the savvy opportunist, using the spy game as a springboard to fame and fortune.
Which leads us to the big question. Was she a true believer, a devoted patriot, a cunning manipulator, or maybe a bit of all three?
That's the puzzle we need to solve. It's rarely a simple case of good versus bad, black versus white. Let's explore those conflicting narratives in more detail, shall we?
Okay, so we've got these conflicting narratives about Anna Chapman's time as a spy, where she a true threat to national security, a master manipulator of the media, or just a pawn in a larger game orchestrated by the Kremlin. Where do we even begin to untangle this web?
Well, one of the sources that you sent over is particularly insightful. It's a journalist who actually met with Chapman in Moscow after her deportation. And he paints this really fascinating picture of her life back in Russia. For example, shortly after the prisoner exchange, Chapman and the other deported spies had a meeting with Putin. And get this, the former KGB leader led them all in a rousing chorus of patriotic song.
Wow, that's quite an image. It definitely suggests a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. But then again, could this public display of patriotism have been more for show than genuine emotion? Was this just another performance?
That's a valid question. It's always tough to separate genuine sentiment from carefully crafted propaganda, especially in a country like Russia. But this journalist also heard from another source that Chapman spent time at Putin's Black Sea villa with the other illegals, even getting a personal submarine ride with Putin himself. So it seems like she had a direct line to the top.
That's a pretty sweet perk. Sounds like Putin had a real soft spot for her. But again, it makes you wonder, was she genuinely favored by Putin? Or was she just a useful tool for his propaganda machine? Was she the mastermind or the pawn?
Well, that's a classic question when we're trying to figure out if someone's a grifter or gifted. Are they pulling the strings or are they being played? And Chapman's story gets even more complicated when you consider her sudden rise to fame in Russia. Remember, even though she was this international sensation, she initially claimed she couldn't afford a lawyer and had to rely on a public defender, but then almost immediately after being deported, she's everywhere. Magazine covers, TV shows, political rallies. It's like a perfectly orchestrated media blitz.
Yeah, it's almost as if she was meant to become a celebrity. Maybe that was the plan all along. Get caught, play the victim, and then leverage that notoriety into fame and fortune back in Russia. Certainly a bold strategy if that's what happened.
Yeah, and she seemed to be playing the role perfectly. From alleged secret agent to glamorous media personality, she was everywhere. She even launched her own fashion line, AC, of course, for Anna Chapman. Although the journalist who covered the launch said she didn't even seem to know what kind of fabric she was using for one of her dresses.
Okay, that's hilarious. It makes you wonder, was she a true fashionista? A savvy businesswoman? Or just someone playing a part? Was this another example of her grifting skills? Or was she simply out of her depth?
It's hard to say for sure, but here's another twist. The journalist also learned that Chapman got a job at Fund Service Bank, the financial arm of the Russian space agency. And get this, one of the bank executives told her, quote, "I can get however much money I need. I just tell them and it's there the next day."
Whoa, that's some serious financial clout, that kind of access to funds. Especially in a field that's as strategically important as aerospace. Isn't something that you typically give to someone with limited experience? It definitely suggests that powerful forces were at play, and that Chapman was more than just a pretty face.
Absolutely. It raises the question, was she a key player in some grand scheme? Or was she just a figurehead, someone that they could use to access those funds? It's all very murky.
And then there's the official explanation for her cushy bank job. They claim she was going to be protecting the planet from asteroids.
Now, that's a convenient cover story. It has all the hallmarks of classic propaganda. Cloak potentially questionable activities in a veil of patriotic purpose. It deflects scrutiny, and it appeals to national pride.
And as if a bank job and a fashion line weren't enough, she also landed her own TV show, Secrets of the World with Anna Chapman.
Okay. I'm curious, what exactly were these secrets that she was revealing?
Well, according to this journalist, she spent her time on the show explaining the mysteries of vampires, black cats, and the apocalypse. Not exactly the kind of hard-hitting investigative journalism you'd expect from a former spy, right?
It sounds like she was being carefully positioned as this kind of intellectual adventurer, exploring the unknown, with just a hint of danger. It's a far cry from the image of a cold, calculating spy. But it's also a very effective way to create a public persona that's both intriguing and non-threatening. It's like she's saying, look, I'm not a threat. I'm just here to entertain you and share some fascinating stories.
And let's not forget about her involvement with the youth wing of Putin's political party. Remember, they were accused of intimidating journalists who didn't toe the party line. One journalist even ended up in a coma after a brutal attack. And what was Chapman's response to these accusations? Quote, "Be happy. If we all had a smile on our face, there would be less negativity in society."
That's a chilling statement. It's a classic tactic used by authoritarian regimes. Force a smile, suppress dissent, and pretend everything is fine. And it's particularly disturbing coming from someone who claims to be all about freedom and individuality. It makes you wonder if she truly believes what she's saying. Or if it's all just part of the act. Is this genuine conviction? Or just calculated manipulation?
It's hard to tell. But then, just when you think you have her figured out, she does something completely unexpected. She poses for Maxim magazine in Russia, in lingerie, holding a pistol. And she reportedly got $25,000 for the shoot. She even bragged about writing the Q&A for the article herself.
Wow, that's a bold move. It definitely suggests that she's comfortable with her sexuality and willing to use it to her advantage. But it also shows a remarkable lack of self-awareness given the political climate in Russia at the time. It's like she's deliberately courting controversy, pushing the boundaries to see how far she can go. Is this just her being true to herself, or is she intentionally stirring up trouble?
It's a good question. And it seems like the Kremlin wasn't too happy with her antics. They tried to control her image by giving her that bank job and involving her in politics. But it seems like their attempts to manage her public persona only fueled her desire for attention.
It's a classic case of someone becoming too big, too unpredictable. For the people who thought they could control her, it seems like their efforts to rein her in just backfired. And then, just when you think it can't get any wilder, she tries to buy, wait for it, a circus troupe.
You're kidding, right? A circus troupe. What was she thinking?
I know, right? It's like something out of a spy movie. What was her plan? To run away and join the circus?
Well, according to this journalist, she wanted to turn the troupe into something like Cirque du Soleil and tour the world. But there was a slight problem with that plan.
Ah, yes. I imagine she's not exactly welcome in most Western countries after that whole spy debacle.
Bingo. But even though she complained about limitations on her freedom, she was still living the high life in Moscow, driving a Porsche Cayenne and bragging about being able to get any amount of money she wanted.
It's a fascinating contradiction, isn't it? Proclaiming a love of freedom, while benefiting from a system that restricts the freedom of others. It makes you wonder what she truly believes in. Is it all just an act? A carefully constructed facade to hide her true motives?
It's hard to say for sure. But here's a telling detail from the journalist. He said that when he brought up her espionage activities, she seemed genuinely scared. She even accused him of being an FBI agent.
That fear is intriguing. Perhaps she knows more than she's letting on. Or maybe she's afraid of the consequences of speaking out against those who are controlling her narrative.
That's a possibility. But throughout all of this, she never revealed any actual details about what she did or learned during her time in the U.S. It's almost like there's nothing to tell.
And that brings us back to the central question. Was she a brilliant spy who successfully infiltrated American society? Or was she just a glamorous distraction, a pawn in a larger game? Was she a grifter, using her looks and charm to manipulate those around her? Or was she gifted, a truly talented operative who was able to outsmart even the FBI?
It's a mystery that continues to fascinate and intrigue. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, we need to consider the broader context of her story, the world she was operating in, the forces that shaped her, and the legacy she's leaving behind. So we spent a lot of time dissecting Anna Chapman's actions and her motivations, trying to figure out if she's a master manipulator or a brilliant spy or maybe something in between. But to really understand her, we need to kind of zoom out and consider the world she was operating in. Remember, this was 2010. The world was still reeling from 9/11. The global financial crisis had shaken things up. And there was a lot of anxiety about Russia's role on the world stage.
You're absolutely right. You can't separate her story from that larger geopolitical context. And in many ways, she became the face of this resurgent Russia, a country that was trying to reclaim its power and influence on the world stage. And she played that role with a certain flair, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. And remember, this was also right around the time when social media was exploding. Suddenly, everyone had a platform and image became everything. It was a perfect storm for someone like Chapman to thrive.
Precisely. She understood the power of visual media, the allure of mystery and intrigue, and she used it brilliantly to craft a persona that captivated the public's imagination. She was a master of self-promotion, using the media to create this larger-than-life image that transcended the traditional world of espionage.
So in a way, she was almost like a reality TV star before reality TV really took off.
Absolutely. She was a natural at creating a narrative, playing with perceptions, and keeping people guessing. That's a valuable skill, whether you're a spy or a CEO or an influencer. It's all about crafting a story that people want to believe.
Which brings us back to our original question. Grifter or gifted? Was she a visionary, manipulating the system for personal gain? Or was she simply a product of her time, a pawn in a larger game orchestrated by forces beyond her control?
It's a tough one. There's no doubt that she was gifted in certain areas. Her ability to cultivate relationships, her understanding of media and public perception. Those are valuable assets no matter what field you're in. But was she a true visionary? Did she have a grand plan, a clear objective? Or was she just reacting to opportunities, taking advantage of circumstances as they arose?
Yeah, it's like that old saying, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Maybe she was just incredibly lucky to be in the right place at the right time with the right set of skills. Or maybe she was a mastermind, carefully orchestrating every move, always staying one step ahead of the game.
I think there's a bit of both at play here. There's no denying she was in the right place at the right time, and she certainly had a knack for seizing opportunities. But there's also a sense that she was deliberately pushing boundaries, testing limits, seeing how far she could go. That suggests a certain level of intentionality, a willingness to take risks and play with fire.
It's like she was constantly testing the system, seeing what she could get away with. And she got away with a lot. I mean, she went from being a relatively unknown spy to an international celebrity with a fashion line and a TV show and a direct line to Putin. That's not just luck. That's a combination of talent and ambition and a healthy dose of audacity.
And that's what makes her story so fascinating. It challenges our assumptions about power and ambition and the nature of truth itself. In a world where image is everything, how can we tell the genuine visionaries from the clever con artists? How do we separate the substance from the spectacle?
It's a question we all need to grapple with, especially in today's world where we're bombarded with carefully crafted narratives and these larger-than-life personalities. It's easy to get swept up in the hype, to believe what we want to believe, but we have to be willing to dig deeper, to question the narratives that are presented to us, and to look beyond the surface.
Exactly. We need to develop our own critical thinking skills, learn to recognize the hallmarks of manipulation, and be wary of those who are too good to be true. Because in the end, the line between a visionary and a con artist can be incredibly blurry, and the consequences of mistaking one for the other can be profound.
Well said. So after all of this, what do you think? Grifter or gifted? Was Anna Chapman a brilliant spy, a master manipulator, or just someone caught in the currents of history?
Honestly, I don't think there's a simple answer. There's evidence to support all of those interpretations, and perhaps that's the point. Maybe her story is less about finding a definitive answer, and more about understanding the complexities of human motivation, the power of image, and the enduring allure of the spy game.
We've gone from Volgograd to London to New York and back to Moscow, exploring the life and times of one of the most enigmatic figures of the 21st century. We've examined her actions, analyzed her motivations, and tried to make sense of her choices. But in the end, Anna Chapman remains an enigma, a puzzle that may never be fully solved.
And that's what makes her story so compelling. It's a reminder that the world is full of mysteries and contradictions, and individuals who defy easy categorization. And that's a good thing. It keeps us guessing, it keeps us thinking, and reminds us that there's always more to learn.
Well said. I think we've done a pretty thorough deep dive into the life and times of Anna Chapman. But as always, we encourage you to continue exploring, to dig deeper, and to draw your own conclusions.
Absolutely. Don't take our word for it. Do your own research, challenge your assumptions, and decide for yourself. That's what makes this whole journey so rewarding.
So until our next deep dive, stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep asking the tough questions.